everyone. I take this opportunity to welcome you all to Legal Talks with Mohit Suri, international renowned lawyer. The topic of today's discussion is company setups in UAE and India, and we have with us a panelist from AAA Amida Sakir Consultants, Mr. Ahmed. They are our partner law firm based in Dubai, and we are doing great work together. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. Welcome, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Mr. Mohit, for the invitation.
You're welcome, Mr. Ahmed.
Allow me to introduce both the panelists. Mr. Mohit Suri is the managing partner MLEGAL. He's an international lawyer with an experience of over 20 years. He has worked on various matters with top law firms like Latham & Watkins, Greenberg, Torrig, Eversheds, and consulting firms like Deloitte and EY. His key areas are mergers and acquisitions, international mobility, and taxation. Mr. Suri is a member of the Bar Council of Delhi and a member of Supreme Court Bar Association and has been a union government counsel in the Supreme Court of India since 2014. He has held many powerful positions and is the Vice President of India's premier Roshara Club, a social club in India. He has also been the President of Indian Powerlifting Federation and a Commonwealth Gold Medalist in powerlifting also. He has been featured in media often for his achievements and work in the field of law and sports. Welcome, Mohit.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thanks for the kind introduction.
You're welcome. I would now like to introduce the other panelist, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed is the founder, senior partner, and managing partner of AAA Amida Sakir Advocates and Legal Consultants. He has over 24 years of experience in both contentious and non-contentious matters and has worked with some of the largest firms in UAE all across the world for over 10 years. He has experience in criminal law, commercial and corporate law, and litigation. He is a member of the Bar Association in Egypt and advocate before the Supreme Court of Cassation and Administration in Egypt, and also a certified trainer from Emirates Association of Advocates and the Arab League and Legal Advisors. It gives me great pleasure to tell you that he is also an author and has authored 2 books, Encyclopedia of Decrees, Law and Real Estate Legislation, and Judgments of Court of Cassation of Dubai. And the second book is Criminal Liability of Director in Limited Liability Companies, Comparative Study on UAE and Egyptian Law in 2018. Pleasure to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for introduction, and it's my great pleasure to be with you.
Yes. So I would like to begin today's discussion. So as you all know that people are very keen and looking forward to set up businesses both in India and UAE. So I'd like to begin the discussion by putting the first question across to Mr. Mohit. Firstly, a very basic question. Why does one need a lawyer to set up a company, whether in India or in UAE? I'll ask you to answer for the part of India.
Okay, that's a very interesting question, Jeannie. Okay, let me just start by explaining to you. Company formation is not just getting a company rolling or registered online or something like that, which a lot of online companies do. You need to plan what your rules are, what your roles are, what your company is going to do, what licenses you're going to need, what approvals you would need, what structure would you like to adapt. All that cannot be told to you by someone who's just registering online and doing a standard vanilla registration for you. You should come to a lawyer to consult how you would control your resources, how would you best deploy them, and what would make it most useful for you. So I think consulting a lawyer at the foundation stage of your business is the most important and most intelligent thing you can do. It might cost more, but much less than any of the problems that those so-called online experts can cause to you. So I would let you question Mr. Ahmed on this. Probably he can shed more light on people in UAE who claim to set up company for 5,000 dirhams and then we are unable to even find them after that.
Absolutely, I agree with Mr. Mohit, and I can add on this particular point In UAE, the process to establish a company are really easy, and the UAE government usually facilitate establishing companies and to push and to give a big push and to the investment. However, you still do need to appoint a lawyer when you start to establish your own company, because when you go to DLD, for example, you will find several activities for the company. If you are not aware, actually, what kind of activity you wish to add or to choose in the beginning, you are complicated the whole process. This is number one. Number two, you are making more charges, unnecessary charges to yourself. Number three, when you add more activity to your company, which are not necessary in the beginning, you are actually, the government will ask you for more requirements, and this is make the process of establishing company more long, and you're going to lose money and you're going to waste time, while you can avoid all of this if you consult a lawyer who can, in one advice, he can tell you, this is the legal activity, this is the economic activity you needed for the time being to start your own business. Then later stage, you can add something, you can remove something else.
Correct.
Okay, well said. So everybody wants to look at greener pastures and expand their business. So I would like to ask the next question to you, Mr. Mohit. What are the advantages of doing business or setting up a company in India, especially for people from UAE or foreign nationals?
See, India and UAE, as UAE is the flavor of this week, are very, very, what should I say, close jurisdictions to each other. Majority of the population in UAE is Indian. Most of the businesses in UAE are Indian. So we can expect a lot of UAE companies to also set up business in India. With the COVID actually wreaking a lot of havoc, it becomes very important for companies to enter the market where they want to cater their businesses to. India is a very huge market, and if a lot of UAE companies want to sell or want to do their manufacturing here, and I think it would make great sense for them to come in and tap India as a future potential economic hub, especially with the growth rate that is expected in the coming years. I think India would be a great jurisdiction for UAE. Plus, with the reciprocating agreement already signed between India and UAE, I think it would be much easier for the UAE businesses to set up in India, because they can execute their contracts in UAE and enforce them in India now. So it becomes much more viable for them compared to even other countries. Though even other countries would be looking at India because they want to hedge their exposure to China. But UAE has a special relationship, as I said, and India would give the best possible opportunity, that is, to the nationals of United Arab Emirates who want to set up businesses in India or companies in India. Thank you.
I think you well explained, Mr. Mohit. I would like to give the same question to Mr. Ahmed. What are the advantages of doing business in UAE and a company set up in UAE?
As I said, UAE government is strongly support investment in UAE, and they are doing that in a very wise strategy. So they started with new rules, completely can be not in comparison with GCC countries. For example, they started with a golden visa to the investors, to the people who are creative, which is a big step. And after that, they even offer to get the UAE citizenship, which will be the first time ever in GCC country or the Arab country who can give such an opportunity to the people. And every few months, every couple of months or 3 months, we are having new regulation very supportive to investors. And regarding to the Indian nationalities here, there are very successful examples happen for people who start investing in UAE or starting even to work, and they achieve a huge or fantastic success stories, and they become billionaires. And by the way, for the Indian nationalities, they are considering the one of the biggest communities and biggest people here in UAE, and you will find everything like, I think, similar to India. So you will not find big differences between India and UAE in many things. And the business, for sure, there are huge opportunity, and there are very good infrastructures, and there are internet, there are tools, there are everything, and the government and their highness are pushing that very smartly, and in a long-term basis and in a short-term basis as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Mr. Mohit, I believe you wanted to add something to this.
No, it's fine. What Mr. Ahmed has said is very right. But again, what I would like to add is, I would like to differ with Mr. Ahmed, because I think slightly though, that one thing which UAE has, which is much faster than India, that is the legal system. So if you, though it is,
My next question actually was about that.
see, that is because he was saying that India and UAE are very similar. So I wanted to just tell the people who joined in that it is very similar when it comes to people, but it is very different when it comes to rules and the laws. So I would let you ask the next question, Jeannie, because we would need to go through all the questions from viewers also.
My next question actually is this only, that what is the process of incorporation of a company in India? And as you were talking about the laws and rules, if you could explain it to our viewers, because as Mr. Ahmed also said, there are a lot of people who are interested from UAE also to set up businesses and expand in India.
See, the scenario is that now the setup of companies in India has become very simple. With the online system, I think you just need one form to get your DIN and to get even your tax numbers and other things. And it can be really, really, really fast. But for a foreigner, it is still not very fast. Why? Because in India, you need one resident director who's residing in India. And so that is, again, like a big drawback, because a foreigner who wants to set up a company in India would need one person who is, one of the directors has to be Indian. So that is a drawback. Then all the documents that have to be submitted at the ROC or submitted online also have to be apostilled, which is kind of, I think, it might not be the easiest of things to do for a businessman, because he has so many things to cater to. So when they want to set up companies, these are two things which I think we will need to change, especially the apostille can change. And so can the rule that one of the directors has to be permanently resident in India. So I think these are things which India can make better to attract more capital, especially from UAE, because they would be keen to invest in India if these things go away. So the process is mainly very smooth and online. Just these two things I think are an issue. You need digital signatures, which is a simple requirement. Thereafter, you apply. You will need to tell us the main reason for which you want to set up your company, the main object of the company, and the proposed names. And that's probably it. And after that, there are procedural things which we will need to know, that how your internal, for your memorandum and your articles, that what you want to deal with and how you want to run your company. So all that has to be done by a lawyer or somebody who is aware of all this. So we can help you out with all that. So this is the basic procedure for India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So as they say, leave it to the lawyer, he knows the best. My next question is for Mr. Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, what is the difference between a free zone and a mainland company set up in Dubai? A lot of people have still a lot of unclarity related to this.
Yeah, actually, I can say the main differences between to establish a company in free zone and in the mainland is the jurisdictions of each of them. If you decide to establish a company in the free zone, it is almost same process, but you just have one single obligation, which is you cannot do the business inside UAE. So if you decided to establish a free zone company, you can do whatever activity you wish according to your commercial activity, but it should be from UAE, from this company all over the world. You cannot get your, let's say, staff, or you cannot do a commercial activity inside UAE. If you're going to do it inside UAE, it has to be throwing a company established in the mainland. But the process almost same. And by the way, the cost, it's not now a big difference between establishing a company in the mainland and free zone as well, especially after the last decrees happened to let the sponsorship of a company, LLC, to be 100% for the foreigner. So you don't have any obligation nowadays, according to the last decree, to have another sponsor of local sponsor or Emirati sponsor with an amount of 51%. So if you decided to do some commercial activity inside UAE, you have to go to establish a company in the mainland.
Mainland. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So as you just mentioned that as per, I think you're referring to the new company formation law, where full ownership is possible and there is no longer a need for a local partner. Right, Mr. Ahmed? So Mohit, I would like to ask you, will this encourage people who are looking forward to spread their wings across UAE, and how much impactful do you think this would be?
Jeannie, this would surely encourage people to invest in UAE. One, a lot of people have been very apprehensive about this 51% ownership by the local, even though you have foolproof agreements. But you never know when somebody, things can go wrong. And they have gone wrong for many people. So people are very reluctant when it comes to giving the 51% ownership to the locals. Once that is gone, people, because Indians have already been going to the UAE, have been traveling and feel at home in Dubai, I think there would be a huge spurt in investment going out from India to the UAE. One, because it's a very smooth financial system. Two, because it's a very smooth legal system. And three, that as per what my experience has been in UAE, amongst all the Arab countries, it has one of the most advanced legal and financial systems in that whole region. So that is a big catalyst for anybody looking at probably going international or establishing their business in another place. So I think UAE is going to gain drastically. Thank you.
Very well said, Mr. Mohit. I would also like to ask Mr. Ahmed that have you seen an increase? Have you seen an increase from India and people from India looking forward to this as per the change in this company formation?
Yeah, of course. And I have a comments regarding to what Mr. Mohit said regarding to the decision or the decrees of getting 100% ownership of for the foreigner investors who can establish a company without Emirati sponsor was 51%. That is actually, it wasn't an easy decision to be taking. And I can say it's a brave and a smart decision, because this is the first time, for the first time in the GCC country, such a decision had to be taken like that. And this is, by the way, this decision, it gives you an indication that the economy in UAE are very well established, and they have self-confidence to open the way and open the doors for all the investors to come to establish their companies without any kind of limitation or without any kind of restriction, of course. So it was very smart, and it's a smart decision, especially the time also of this decision. It's actually very good because after COVID-19, the global economy are down, and each country would like to recover and would like to take its share of the economy and recovering on something like that. So UAE government takes this decision very wisely. And this gives a big push to everybody, because now you can come and you can establish your own company, and you can get your money and do whatever you need according to the legal system, which is also very advantage, if I may say. We have now, Ms. Jenny, we have a smart government. Yani, according to His Highness Mohammed bin Rashid, who I think 2 years, he said, we don't want to use paper. And now this vision, it's being clear. Even the notary public, we just have three days ago only, it's now becomes totally electronically. So you don't have paper, you don't have something to sign, you don't have a stamp like the old-fashioned issues. You can do everything throwing your application, apps, Emirates ID electronically. So everything is very easy, starting from paying bill to do the legal work. And even for our for our legal work, actually, we are now attending hearing online. We are submitting our application or our draft online. We are meeting judges, and we are talking to them online. So it's really a very advantage legal system, which giving very good push.
Thank you so much. That's very nice to know. Mr. Mohit, would you like to add to this? Because you also have been, attending hearings digitally, and a lot of these things have been happening in the Indian legal system as well. Would you please like to share your experience about this?
See, Jeannie, this is a phenomenon which is around the world, but actually the litigation system has suffered drastically around the world because of COVID. The time required for a judgment has gone up drastically. The backlog of cases is huge in India and in other places around the world, because we do a lot of litigation around the world. But as Mr. Ahmed said, COVID-19 is a big opportunity. Why I say that? A lot of people are restarting or starting their businesses afresh, or have their businesses, their traditional businesses have suffered. So they can actually, this is the time when they can think of exploring international markets, think of looking at expanding, think of looking at moving to a jurisdiction which will give them a more, say, business-friendly environment, so that they can grow without the fear of the next pandemic. We all have seen this, that there are certain areas which have handled the pandemic better than the others. So UAE being one of them. So I think this pandemic would lead to a lot of people thinking of UAE, not just in India, but around the world. So as far as the legal system is concerned, we would discuss in our next talk, which is something which actually really attracts me to this jurisdiction, with the common law courts and arbitrations and other things. So, but since we are running out of time, I would not like to talk too much about this, and I would let you and Mr. Ahmed do the closing remarks. And if any of our participants, because today we had over 40 participants, because I had to actually remove a couple of them so that the remaining from the queue could come in, because I had limited the number of participants to 40. So I would let them ask us if they have any queries. I would request them to just unmute and ask us if they want. And I would thank Mr. Ahmed for being so kind and giving us his generous time today. And I would thank you for hosting this show. And I would give the mic to you and Mr. Ahmed to, and then for any questions if we have.
Thank you, Mohit. Before I move the vote of thanks, I'd like to ask if any of our guests would like to ask any questions. You could please unmute yourself and ask the question. So I think most of them are clear about what both of you said. So, Mr. Ahmed, okay, Mr. Ahmed, I would like to thank you, and I thank your firm for partnering with us also and for being a part of this legal talks. And to all the viewers, I extend a vote of thanks, and Mr. Mohit also. And please join us every week for this, and you can follow us on our social handles. The recording of the same would be available on our YouTube channel also.
And
please
also on
follow us
AAA's social handles.
Yeah, of course, on AAA on the shuttles also. All right. And Mr. Ahmed, thank you so much. I will give the mic to you to express and to say a few words.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it would be always my pleasure to participate with you in future webinar. And welcome to AAA Amira Sakhr Advocates in UAE, and welcome to UAE as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Pleasure hosting you both, and pleasure having all the audience. As I said, please check us out on our social handles and follow us for more advice. We will have the next topic would be recoveries and reciprocating territory, India and UAE. It's going to be a very interesting and very, very informative topic. And I would request all the viewers to please join us again. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you very much for being there. All of you joined us. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thanks.